This is Michael Coffey, and this is a Tiny Desk sermon. This is my chance to take a first look at the readings for this coming Sunday and to give some initial thoughts on them. I'm the pastor of First English Lutheran Church in Austin, Texas, and this Sunday is the fourth Sunday of Easter. And the fourth Sunday of Easter is always Good Shepherd Sunday. We always hear some kind of text that talks about Jesus as the shepherd in our lives. The text for this Sunday comes from the Gospel of John, and there's a whole section here on Jesus as the Good Shepherd, and we just get part of it, and it's verses 11 to 18 in chapter 10. Jesus said, "I am the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand, who is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. The hired hand runs away because a hired hand does not care for the sheep. I am the Good Shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd. For this reason the Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it up again. I have received this command from my Father." So, Jesus presents himself not simply as a shepherd for his people, one who would lead and watch out for and corral the sheep when they go astray. Jesus presents himself as the Good Shepherd, the one whose care and intentions for his flock is good. And he contrasts that with a hired hand, somebody who's just paid to come in and do a job for someone else, like a babysitter. And he says, hired hand, they can care for the sheep until things get really tough, and then if there's trouble, they take off because they're just looking out for themselves. So it's a wonderful image. If you deal with whatever it means to be shepherds and sheep, and that's not most of us, most of our culture, for most of us, but I think we get a sense of what that means. Somebody who's there to watch out for, protect, care for, guide, lead, corral when we try to go astray. So it's worth contemplating how it is that Jesus, as the risen Lord, is the shepherd of our lives, to contemplate which hired hands, if you will, we have maybe put too much trust in to be our guide, to assume that they're going to be there when things get rough, and then we find out they're not. Which things have we put too much trust in? One of the things that really strikes me about this text, in combination with the reading, the second reading for Sunday, which is from 1 John, is the importance the text places on Jesus as the one who lays down his life for his flock. That he's that loving and caring and self-giving, that he gives his life to protect and care for his flock. It's a powerful image, and it tells us that to have Jesus as our shepherd, there's something else going on here besides hired hand stuff. Now, the Gospel of John is often assumed to be part of a particular community we might call the Johannine Community, and other writings came out of that community, and some of those are the letters of John. And the reading we get from 1 John in chapter 3 says something very powerful about this, the nature of this Good Shepherd and what it means to be a community of this shepherd. It says, "We know love by this, that Jesus Christ laid down his life for us." And then immediately the text says, "And we ought to lay down our lives for one another." Now we really see what it means to claim Jesus as Good Shepherd. It's to be known and loved, cared for, protected, guided, corralled, but it's also then to be the community that lives out that same love by laying down our lives for one another. What does that mean to lay down our lives for one another or for others? It doesn't always mean doing something dramatic or history making to the point that we literally would be killed for it, though in certain times and places that has been true. Consider this week the story that came out of Philadelphia of two African American men who were in Starbucks, and they had not ordered anything yet, and so the store manager saw them as a nuisance or a problem or trespassing. And they called the police. And the police came and arrested them on the spot. There were some other people in that store, if you've seen the video for this event, who stood up and questioned what was happening, who challenged what was happening on behalf of these other men, who they, I assume, didn't even know. They were laying down their life for these other men because they saw an injustice happening in front of their eyes. And instead of only worrying about themselves, instead of being followers of the hired hand who says, take off when things are too challenging for you personally, they questioned what was happening. Now, they weren't able to stop it, but the person who videoed the event and shared it was able to have a huge impact on the reality of profiling of African Americans and other persons of color. What are other ways that we lay down our lives for one another? Maybe smaller ways where we carve out time in our lives to care for others, where we could be doing something else or really want to do something else. We carve out in our budgets offerings and givings and support for individuals and organizations. We give up some of our lives for others. We do this because we know Jesus is the Good Shepherd. And the Good Shepherd is the one who not only cares for, loves, watches out for, protects, and corrals us, but he's the one who gives his life for us. And in doing that, we seek to find ways to give our lives for others because the love of God abides in us by the Good Shepherd. Peace to all.